the people around me could all read. I mean, dyslexia was like unknown. And yeah, I understand being middle class and all that stuff, but everybody could read. How did they teach us? I wondered. You know, what were
They
they
taught
doing?
us. They didn't, I mean, I hate to be such a crabby old lady, but we didn't sit on the floor facing the back of the room and trying to figure it out ourselves. For better or worse, they taught us.
Well, here
And
is one of my
that's,
trick lessons in my talks. Is I like to bring up the most modern techniques to everybody that I can. I really like to keep up, and I do realize I spend most of my life reading about Scotland in 150 A.D. But I've got something here that, from 1938 that I'd like to bring to everybody. And so a big piece of today's talk is from what I found in a reading book from 1938, because I was curious as to how they could have had it all right. And we have it all wrong. So, not all wrong is completely bad to say, but we have it so wrong. What were they doing? How did they think? And it's not a great
I
book,
mean,
but you've got
I'm
some
sure that there were kids with reading problems, but not everybody. In New York City, 25% of the kids have IEPs, 250,000 kids.
it's
That
crazy.
can't be
Wow.
accurate. Right, Mary? I mean, there must be something we can do. Anyway, I have to write my little proposal, but I will be listening in for.
Keep in touch, and I hope we got some good tips, because now we're talking about just the things as characteristics of good remedial programs, and that doesn't mean great leaps, but it's doing good things. All
Yeah,
right.
so I was glad I hit record a little early as I heard you start to dive into some stuff, so I caught some of
Always
those
dive
bits
in.
there. But yeah, again, as we start recording, if you want to interject, there might be a little raise hand feature on this. Well, just unmute yourself when you have something to interject or questions or what have you. But yeah, to kick it off again today, like you just said, we're talking about the characteristics of good remedial teaching and programs. And of course, my dad spent a lot of his career learning from experience from this and has studied it and everything. So if you want to just open up with a general
I'll kick it
statement,
off
then I have
number
a lot of
one.
bullets.
There's a bunch of these. We probably can't get through them all, but they're all from my great 1938 book. But number one, I like the best, and it is their number one. And I'll just read straight from their words, and they sound like they're coming from today. Remedial instruction should not be substituted for highly cherished activities. Wow. Do we need to learn that? You don't pull a basketball player out of PE so he can learn how to read. He'll figure out how to get back on the court in no time. You don't have a cheerleader. This one's a good one for Lisa. You don't have a cheerleader doing her great leaps, reading, even if she can't read at all, after school, because that's when cheerleading is. So we've got to think and quit being so selfish about us and our needs. And when we program for a kid, boy, this goes back to everything we've been talking about the whole time. Think kid first. Think about the kid. Spinning off of this also is kids' needs. Not only we often pull them out of content classes like social studies and science. Why? Oh, because they can't read. They can see experiments, they can watch your movies, they can listen to your lectures. Why are you testing them and not allowing them in your room when you are giving them the content knowledge they need? And I'm reading a great book on that right now. So far, great. It could turn out crazy, but it's called The Knowledge Gap by Natalie Wexler, The Hidden Cause of America's Broken Education System. And it just has to do with us being skill-based on everything instead of knowledge-based. Great Leaps does everything in 15 minutes for a damn good reason. It's all the time you need. Get on to teaching them about stories and literature and life and the world.
Yeah, I have a note here too that you had mentioned and spoke to in our kind of prep conversations leading up to this. But the importance and planning, especially with these children and when doing remedial teaching.
Well, as we work it, the system thinks we're all magic. and we can just come in and write and do this stuff. I want everybody, the teachers here really know that, man, we have to prepare like a television show every day. And we have to be good now because we're competing with a huge variety of media. So we've got to be good. And to do that, we've got to come in prepared. I've got to think, before I have my child in my Great Leaps talk, you know, I need a few minutes to think about who I'm working with. Like my little boy liked turtles. So thinking about how can I teach a couple of things and use his love of turtles to get this across. And even in our little depth of knowledge piece, this is where we're really most powerful, is when we know who we're working with. I'm not like the old hippie days where we're going to go following a kid around and see what he likes and then do a lesson from that. But I'm going to plan around what I know they like. My job is to know that kid, really know them. And if you're giving me, that's my problem. I couldn't be a regular ed teacher. There's too many souls thrown at me at once. I mean, man, I was overwhelmed. You give me 8 or 9 or 10 at a time, and I get to know them and have a good chance of meeting them where they're at and taking them to where they need to be. We have many teachers, in my opinion, in the educational system who, if they see a child drowning, will lecture them on, why'd you go out in the water? We'll lecture them. Don't you know if you go out there, you're going to drown? Here, let me. No. What we got to do, this is good Florida stuff, we got to go out there and get them. I've got to take the trouble to go reach that kid on their ground, and often that's deep in the water drowning. That's what we do as teachers. You don't just stay apart and aloof and lecture. You teach, and part of teaching is knowing, appreciating, and you know, sometimes you even have to appreciate repulsive kids who have repulsive KKK ideas in their system and their mind and their world. I'm not going to get them out of that box unless I appreciate the box from which they are in, and I'm willing to go into that box and reach them. That's a huge piece of preparation, is being ready to go by knowing who you're working with and appreciating their soul.
Does anybody have, again, we want this to be conversational, so if at any time anybody has like stories or things that speak to these parts, like with planning or different students you've worked with, feel free to interject. Lisa, it looks like you have something for us.
Yeah, yesterday I danced from 1,000 miles away to Baby Shark. because I was with a student. Now this is the 3rd generation. I worked with Ansley when she was 7. She got up to 5th grade, 8th month stories. So we moved on to her younger sibling, Ambry, who's a year or so behind her. Well, the little brother, who's Adamson, my next one coming, was having his birthday gathering. And he came over, Miss Lisa, can you come to my party? And I was like, buddy, it's a little bit far, but we could dance together. So he told Alexa to play Baby Shark. Ooh. And we did the whole... You're
not going to do the whole thing for us, Lisa?
No, thank you. But part of that is being in their world. I have a list that I need to hang of all of my students' elves on the shelf. So I could ask where their elves are at by name instead of just saying, where is your elf? I could say, Corbin, where is Mr. Christmas?
Well, when I was teaching 4-year-olds, there's just some things I guess I'm too male-oriented to do. I would not sing I'm a little teapot, short and stout. I had to get all the Bambi deer and all that cute stuff out of my 4-year-old Montessori room. I filled it with World War I airplanes and dinosaurs, stuff like that. But we're going to sing songs like Hit the Road Jack. Not, I'm a little teapot. I'm not a damn little teapot. Teaching is fun and it's personal. I got to do this. This is an important thing to talk about for everyone because, and hopefully we can share with the younger teachers some tidbits on we can't do our reading work with children who are severely behind in an embarrassing way. That is so critical because especially our many of our inner city children cannot be seen. They would rather be beat than look stupid. They can't be embarrassed. So we have to think that out. And so some things, if you're in one of these, the teachers that co-teach, often they'll just pull the most needy readers out, which they don't realize they're labeling them. So if you're co-teaching with Great Leaps, spend 5 minutes by taking the brightest kid in the room to go back there with you. My own resource room, half the school wanted in there because we did some cool stuff like Jeopardy Fridays and things like that. Kids wanted to know, how did you get in here? How do you get in here? And I didn't lie. I said, you've got to apply with the guidance counselor, you know, and I really like you, but, you know, if you can't get in, you know, you got invited by Allison here, you know, so you can come in every Friday she invites you. But destigmatizing is a huge piece of what we need to do and don't. I was talking to a group in North Carolina once of college students who are working with kids. And one kid says, I'm sorry, this doesn't work. You know, yeah, it's just at the start of a talk, but teaching 350 people how to do this thing. And I open up with this guy saying, oh, I'm sorry, you're a nice guy now, but this doesn't work. So I had to say, okay, tell me what you do. And luckily for me, in 1 minute, he showed his card. It was a 2 of clubs. Not a good. He says, well, I come into the room and I go, hey, bub, time for your reading help. Oh, God. Yeah, nobody wants to do it, do they? You embarrassed them. So you don't get performance out of children in poverty when you use embarrassing tactics. We need tactics, skills, sharings. How do we destigmatize our work with children who are far behind, showing we appreciate and care for them and do know how bad feeling stupid is?
Yeah. And we have a lot of Great Leaps instructors here, of course. If there's any tactics you've used in that have been really successful, you know, please do share, because these, you know, get recorded and will be shared with other teachers and people that could make some use out of those strategies. I wanted to, since you're talking earlier about singing songs and things with your students, one of the notes I have on here is being strategic of when to use small group activities versus one-on-one things. So I guess if you could just speak to that a little bit. And
it's very difficult. It's very difficult now in COVID world to do small groups. But in my teaching world, I generally had paras, and we went back and forth on who did the timings. But the group activities, if I know my group, I can design activities being very cognizant of everybody's abilities where they are so all can take part. I like the idea of different activities that open up expression to the kid, and I have to learn how to shut up myself, you know, because I'm not a 45-minute dialogue for these guys. You know, I want them talking. I want them sharing. And I don't care what I'm really bad on this. I don't care what administrators think. You know, I want to catch those magic moments and ride with them. Thus you hear the story of, I'm being evaluated and they walk in and we're talking about the best bait for the Loch Ness Monster when I'm supposed to be talking about Indians and smallpox and stuff. Oh, well, how did you get there? And then you got to say, well, how long do you have? When you're with the kids, it is so magical. Take those magic moments and ride them. And some of that's not preparation, except in the preparation of knowing a child. You know, I think that, and so small groups knows them. I never have someone read something they cannot read. So when I call on a student to read a passage from a novel or short story we were doing, I know they can read it. Next, I give them the option to pass. Always, I pass. No punishers there. None. I pass. Good enough. We'll go on. But I've made sure if I'm going to call on someone to read, they can read it. There's no embarrassment going on. Eliminating punishers. Boy, is that huge. And we are within a system predicated, it seems, on the idea of punishment, that mistakes are wrong. Which the word wrong even kicks in, doesn't it? Wrong, like stealing, killing, wrong. When we punish mistakes and errors, we stop performance.
Yeah, one of the things I remember from being in class in high school and stuff, I was always a quieter, kind of a shyer kid. But in math classes, they often pull the one where they have kids, literally go up to the board to solve the problem or to prove an equation or something. And there's you just see time and time again when somebody doesn't know what they're doing, and the embarrassment basically being in front of your friends and peers, in front of a whole classroom of people looking, and feeling stupid. And I'm definitely glad you're speaking to it, but this was, in gifted classes, the similar things happen. It doesn't do anybody any good when you embarrass people in front of their peers for being wrong, essentially.
Generally,
Lisa,
I know how you can get out of that when they ask you to do something that's impossible. Get in trouble.
Get in trouble. Yeah, that's a response from a lot of your kids. Lisa, did you have something?
Yeah, Ken, you mentioned punishers and that we tend to punish kids inadvertently. What are some ways that we do that, and what can we do differently?
Well, we talked about that word wrong. Trying to self-awareness would be the one thing of it, realizing that punishers exist and you're doing it. We live in a world, and I can't change some of it, that if I take a kid who's at the 10% level and in 6 weeks I move them to the 50% level, huge teaching is going on. That's an if. If I take a kid from the 99 level and move them to 97, that's an A. I don't know how to undo that word. Individually, your attitude toward mistakes and your voice tone. What happens when an error is made? I'm pretty neutral. I mean, it's just what it is. A behaviorist told me that when we do spend time on errors, that when we spend time on errors, we're reinforcing the rate of errors, that to get the attention, the student will make errors, and that's wrong. What we are reinforcing is performance. When you eliminate performance, people are not afraid to perform. And when they make an error, we're working with it, but without emotion, and we're just getting better. And now you start rewarding with your voice. Man, you did way better than last time. Just a million times. But here goes another one. It's not in how you say good job. It's how your soul and demeanor say good job, because you can say it the same way every time. There's these stupid things that come out to us as teachers. 100 ways to say good job. There's only one way to say good job, and that's from your heart. Eliminating punishers often is dramatically increasing that which reinforces, that which children like, that which children respond to, that which is friendly, non-threatening, all of this stuff. But yet, at the same time, it's not avoiding the idea of an error. Some people have this belief system that you can't be real. that if someone's doing something wrong, it's so bad. No, that is so wrong. I must address it. I don't have to make up stuff that's good, because now I've become a liar. And I'm not going to be a liar. You don't sit and say good job when it's been a sorry ass job. That's lying.
I'd imagine the kids can see right through that.
And do.
Yeah. I have a note too on since you mentioned errors, the importance of measuring those improvements, keeping record of it, keeping track of so you can be sincere in rewarding that success with the encouragement, kind of knowing that student and what they improved on from lesson to lesson.
There's some nuances there that have been talked about throughout the world of Great Leaps. One is there are some teachers who believe in reading the entire story ahead of time to a child. But to me, the disadvantage on that, when you're working with a child day to day, is if on one day a child reads 50 words and the next day he reads 68, he sees new material coming, right? He's concretely seeing success and movement. If he has already heard that story, you have taken away that piece of concrete success. Even now with tech, we can have them read to the finish every time if we wanted to. But you lose that piece of I'm getting better. And showing them a clock saying, hey, yesterday you did this in a minute 32, and today you knocked it all the way down to a minute 27. Big deal. That's so abstract. You're not saying anything. When the kid sees them, and that's why a lot of the Great Leap stories have jokes at the end or little turns at the end, is so as you go along through it, suddenly you get rewarded. And they get it. That's a huge piece of reading. The kid getting it. If I read it to the kid ahead of time, I got it, and they got it through me. I don't want them to get it through me. I want them to get it, enjoy the joke, enjoy the turn of words, enjoy it that they did it. I didn't do it. They did it. That is huge in the world of reward. Reward works 1,000 times better than punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to increase a behavior, you do it through reward. You eliminate behaviors with punishment. And eliminating behaviors would be things like sticking your finger in an electrical socket. Yeah, I want to reduce that to 0, and I'll use punishers to do it.
Yeah. Lisa, do you have something?
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned, Ken, was about using the data to give actual, concrete, real encouragement and real praise to a kid. And I could not do what I do as a tutor without having the charts right there. I absolutely would be broken if I couldn't, because I tell a kid every time before how they did last time, and we figure out what they should do this time. And then after, I'm able to say to them, they don't have to take my word that oh, you read so well. I can tell them, man, you added on 22 words and got rid of half of your errors. High five, buddy.
In our world, immediacy starts mattering a lot too. Especially with their children who cannot delay gratification. A 6-week report card in my world was completely and utterly meaningless. Completely, and the parents didn't care either. Not all of them, but immediacy of reward is huge. Sometimes I just don't care about the clock and that it's running and timing and stuff. Man, if they just kick butt on something, I'm going to be right there coaching and yelling and moving and being me. You can't be me, but being me and rewarding them. And a lot of this is just active coaching, but you have to fit it within your personality, because you can't be me, nor can I write a book. I hate scripted stuff. First there's, that a lot of remedial materials out there are scripted and tell you what to say, how to behave, and what hand signals to give, and all of that stuff for everything. The boy here can't do it. I mean, you don't write them in Southern. I can't follow directions with hand signals and that kind of crap. I'll get all mistaken and confused. Even if it works, I have to design something else that works, because I can't do that.
Reading instruction is a dance. It is. It is a dance. When you have a student reading and you know where they've been struggling, and you can throw in an excellent right as they're reading, it's a dance. It's a really neat dance.
Very similarly, Scott Hackmeyer said when he was watching a group discussion going, he was my principal, and he was saying, man, what I'm watching here is you're like directing an orchestra, and they're all playing in tune. How beautifully. And he saw what I'm doing is I talk a lot here and things, but when I'm doing it right, they're doing it, and I'm directing and moving. And yes, that takes authority. There's a lot of people who don't like authority these days. I have no problem with adults being in authority. I mean, none. I don't abuse authority. That's where the problem comes. And it's amazing how many things as we talk here that's just on this whole thing from 1938. Successes should be emphasized when they occur. I just looked, that's number 7 right on here, when they occur. This waiting doesn't, waiting to the end. I had some trouble with Southerners on this. They thought it was rude to interject in between things, what's going on, to even immediately correct, to immediately praise. They thought all of that rude. So culturally, I had to meet them on their ground and basically say, this is coaching. It's not rude. It's 25% of your effectiveness tends to ride on immediate correction. And we can talk about this too, because some of the Orton Gillingham people have been here, is how long do you wait for a child to figure something out? How long do you wait, and is struggle punishing? Those are questions I ask because when I read and when I look, Lisa, the details, but how long do they allow a wait?
I believe from what I saw on an OG based page, it's like 10 seconds or something, 8 or 10 seconds when they're doing their end of section stuff. That's an eternity as far as I'm concerned.
I think
a long time to sweat.
I think it's also wasted 8 seconds. And minutes matter. I was on a jury one time when a child had been shaken to death, and someone said that child had been shaken. A medical person said that child had been shaken for over 30 seconds. And the grand jury people said, oh, it's only 30 seconds. And I go, okay. I want all of you guys to watch, hold your breath while I shake. Ready? Begin. 30 seconds is a damn long time. Those of us who work in the minutes know how powerful. We get in a lot of problems because of 15 minutes. Doing everything in 15 minutes. That's your attention span. That is a long period of time for a kid. If you don't think 15 minutes is long, set your timer in a dentist sometime.
Well, it's built around that specific point that I have here and was going to kind of bring up, but distribute practice to avoid fatigue and boredom.
Oh, yes. I'll go to Lisa on this, and anyone else can ask, because I really love the story of the Bronx cheerleader. How do you get a adolescent girl who's a cheerleader and has the whole world, how do you get her to want to learn how to read and not be bored with it? And actually, you took her all the way to passing her Regents exam.
Yep. Ava started with me when she was starting her freshman year of high school. Ava is a national level cheerleader who has just a few other things that she does, such as volunteer to teach other kids to dance, softball, high up in the Girl Scouts. Oh, maintaining her own grades, her going to her brother's hockey games. Yeah, in the middle of the Bronx. Ava was a very booked young lady. Ava and I worked at 7 o'clock. I just wrote her Christmas card, and it was such a sweet time. Ava and I worked at 7 o'clock in the morning, and she got up because we had been working late at night. But these high school kids, they're easy in some ways because they want to learn to read. There is not a kid in the world who wants to be illiterate, and those high school kids can hear the clock ticking.
I wish their tutors
Like
could hear
nobody
it.
else.
I wish the tutors in our world could hear that clock ticking, because they don't. They really, really don't. And I will do my best to get better. We only have a year or two with these kids. Ava was lucky, had supportive parents. But in the real world of teaching, in a year, they're going to take all my kids away and give them to somebody else. Or when they're in the 8th grade and I'm at a middle school, they're going to take them away and send them to high school. I'm going to lose them. I'm attacked all the time for the hurry, hurry, hurry. But they're underwater and drowning. I got to damn hurry. You don't get it. You don't have forever. I don't have forever to make sure they know every nuance of phonics and phonological awareness. I didn't say it's not important. I wish these people could hear me out there. It's critical. But I'm going to lose this child to the world forever if I can't get them reading and competing with their peers as fast as humanly possible. We don't have time to waste. Ava and the Great Leaps tutors sometimes have more than a year or two. Wonderful for them. When we're working with at-risk, marginalized students, we've got to push the pedal to the metal. And I'm not kidding, because lives are at stake. And we don't, not philosophies, not the way I do it. If I'm doing it and I'm not rescuing them, I'm failing. And here's an important point on that many do not get. If we do not take them to the finish line, they go backwards. Even with Great Leaps and the best of my work, if we don't take them to the finish line, they go backwards. Summer's been a travesty. Covis is a triple tragedy. And I've got too many people who are okay with a child being at 3rd grade level and we're losing them. Mm-hmm. No, we got to take them to the finish line, and we have to get this world to understand that finish line. And there's not a research paper I can read on the finish line, and yet I've known it for 20 years and heard it for 20 years and watched it my entire career. In Florida, kids move in and out all the time. When our kids who left and then came and had reached the finish line, when they came back, I test them. They were either the same or had advanced. The children who had not reached the finish line when they came back had regressed. The entire thing of reading recovery, that's why it fails, is you stop the intervention before you've reached the finish line. That's critical in our thinking and our spreading the word to people.
Yeah, and on that, I wanted to, since we're coming towards the end here, just open it up for any general questions or additional, I guess, points on this general subject of, effective remedial teaching. Lisa, you have something to add?
Yeah, I want to brag. You're talking, Ken, about the finish line. Mary, I don't know if you know this yet, but I spoke to one of your IEP teachers this week. I won't put last name on here because she's not here, but Kim is almost at the finish line with one of her with her case study students. So Mary's group took at-risk 3rd and 4th graders, and this kid started with Kim in February or March, I believe, and he is going to hit the finish line before a year's gone by. And he started at the actual beginning. He is now reading 6th grade stories with cold reads of 140 plus words a minute.
I have Facebook pages that would tell you, Lisa, that it's crazy and impossible.
This kid is living proof. She reached out to me because he went down a little bit with his cold read, and she wanted to make sure that was okay. Oh. So congratulations, Mary. Your work has led to this kid's, countless lives are being saved by it, but that was such a cool thing to hear from Kim. and hear and see that this kid is on story, I think, 92, having well finished the other 2 sections. So yeah, so in a year, this kid's life, including with COVID in the worst place in the country, in the middle of New York City, this kid was reached and is crossing the finish line before February.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Lisa.
And
I'm very proud. I'm very proud of Kim
Yeah.
and her student, and all my teachers and parents
yeah.
that I've trained.
Mary, you were part of a miracle that I just feel grateful to have been a part of during this COVID nonsense and horror. So many people have, Yankees from New York City aren't supposed to write thank you notes. You're supposed to be rude. I've gotten thank you notes. I've met a young man, I forgot his name because I'm so bad at that, but he's going and raising money so other kids outside of his own room can get Great Leaps Digital. Anthony, that's his name.
Anthony DeMarca, yeah.
What a wonderful. And these children, Mary, every one of them, I looked at all their data, they would have all been labeled dyslexic. We've got to quit labeling let's quit putting brands, that A from, it's branding them with an A. I hate branding kids. I hate it. Label me, train me, let me work with kids with problems. Quit labeling kids. Let doctors label kids. Let judges label kids. Let teachers teach kids. Those children that we looked at, that's like 142 or so I looked at, they would all have been labeled dyslexic. They all are moving, every one of them. And I just have a car. Great Leaps is just a car. It doesn't go anywhere without a driver. And man, your drivers are taking them to the promised land. How cool is that?
Mary's teachers did actually, because Ken gifted them with, when COVID struck, Ken gifted them with as many students as they could reach. And so he's talking about just the case study students, but truth is they worked, so it was 191 people worked over 600 students. And I know because I looked at all of the data on 600 plus students, and every single one of them moved forward.
Here's what I like better. What did the teacher say about it?
We asked for anonymous feedback. One of the things Mary did was ask for anonymous feedback, and we got responses. And out of well over 200 responses, I think probably closer to 300 responses, there was not one negative thing about the program. That in New York City. Whereas Ken mentioned, New York City have no problem. I was one, have no problem telling it like it is.
I was happy to record some interviews with different instructors, Annie being one of them. So thanks again for that. That was fantastic. And
you just don't know what it feels like to be a 71-year-old retired teacher.
You're right, I don't.
I hope you get that feeling. It's to change life. I need concrete. Something about me needs concrete rather than the abstract. So I've gone to weird places. New York's not weird, but I've gone to weird places to meet teachers in schools and classrooms to see what this thing is like. I met Ava, the cheerleader. I treated her parents to pizza because I want to meet them. I don't need abstract. I want real. I don't want to see a picture of a pizza or a glass of happy hour wine. I want to drink it.
Yeah. Well, with that, we're kind of coming towards the end of our time here, and we have our what was it? Useless trivia with an additional hint. It's now up to a $50 gift card. So for people that are new, real quick, what we've been doing at the end of these, my dad's head is full of a lot of worthless knowledge, right? So lots of useful stuff as well.
Got a big head too, real big head.
but we're, he's come up with these questions and stuff that are pretty tough. A lot of them are really tough to Google the way he puts it. And I'll let him explain this one again, but this will
Nobody.
be our hint, and now up to a $50
Yeah.
gift card. Nobody got it this past week.
Yeah, and I'm not cheating, but Googling, I've tried to make this ungoogleable. That's a new word, ungoogleable. Hard to say. Phonetically perfect, I do believe. But I talked last week about Marilyn Monroe, can't say her name, Halle Berry, don't deny it at all. But what's her name? Bruce Jenner, before he changed his name.
Kim Kardashian.
Yeah,
no, Kim Kardashian.
Kim Kardashian denies it vehemently. Well, a few people tried to guess that it was plastic surgery or augmentation of some kind. Too easy. But there is something going on that, yep, Ms. Kardashian, yep. Same thing with Marilyn Monroe, Halle Berry. And you know what I heard rumors of? Oprah Winfrey too. You know, I've heard that. And but with the three we did, let me tell you, whatever happened to them is certainly not the sign of the beast. All right, that's your clues today. I don't want to give the $50 away, but nor do I want to cheat. And these type of questions, my middle school kids, I had a TV show to teach remediation, and man, they were all over it. More kids went into that library than you've ever imagined. The librarian hated it because she wanted her library to be spick and span and look great. She didn't want kids in there. And I ruined that. I had contests that had these kids tearing that library apart. But this isn't a library thing, but this is all real. It is fair. And now you've got three people, and I added a fourth possibility, because not only does Kim deny it, I think there's an element of denial running in Miss Oprah Winfrey also. So there's today's clue. I hope you get it. Send it. Two things. Send it to me on email if you're first and you're here next 2 weeks from now. You win it.
And that's
If you
Ken.
don't,
Ken at Great Leaps is that email. Ken at greatleaps.com.
It's not K-E-N, even though Southern-wise it's phonetically perfect as Ken. Orton Gillingham people keep wanting me to spell it K-I-N. And I said, that ain't my name. And they hate the word ain't too. Oh my God. Candace, I got a New England joke for you. A New England teacher told me she could see me in my class teaching ain't a word. I said, yeah, and I can see you teaching in Massachusetts. Pronounce your Oz.
Well, I guess with that.
I hope this feels like happy hour to you. It does to me. I hope, if you have subjects, one, Candace, I'd love to have you as a guest speaker sometime, because your work in New England and Quebec has just been nothing but phenomenal. And I'm going to shoot one more shot at you, Candace. I need help in multisyllabic probes. I really do. I can't write them because I was taught to speak in one-syllable words.
Can I brag on Candace for a second?
Sure.
Candace was the first person over 50 to do and not much over 50, to do the program at a distance. So she is, after me, I believe she is, if I am not mistaken, she is the second person. After me, she learned how to do it at a distance without us even videoing to do it. Candace is a wonder.
That's awesome.
So Candace is a kid first person that just amazed me from the get-go. So, yeah, and incredibly well trained in reading, far more than me. I'm behavior. I'm behavior all over the place. And when you look at Great Leaps, you're going to see behavior. And maybe I need to write it sometime, because all these people that don't do Great Leaps treat me like I'm an idiot, and that this can't work. And I can't wait to throw, now that we got the digital data, I can't wait to throw 1,000 or 5,000 pieces of data at them. And
yeah, with that, we'll close it out with all the kind words. I'm happy that we have such a great group of people here that we get to get to see and chat with. And if you have any ideas for future topics as well, please send those in to myself or my dad. We're open to anything, and want these to be enjoyable, but also valuable to the people that are a part of the conversation and listening in. So thanks again for everybody that was joining, and we hope to see you guys the next one.